And now, following the agenda and the program that we have, I will try to chair this session. I think we had a wonderful keynote, and I think also that the policy issue, the e-government issue, we didn't talk much about open data as well, is coming little by little also into the framework, I would say, of a lot of the either solutions or challenges that we are facing right now in our sector related to ICT and also other type of technologies. But before opening up the panel and the floor for discussion, I would like to introduce to you to Antonio López de Ávila. He is the president of Segitur, and I asked him to give us a short presentation so that we can have a more sector or, vertical view of how this smart destination and data issue is little moving forward based on national policy. So that I think you have about 10 to 15 minutes to have a short introduction to the topic of this panel. And then I will open the floor to the members of this panel to be able to have some questions and discuss. And hopefully everybody will participate in this final panel, because the idea is that we can really participate and engage in this final reflection or discussion. So thank you very much, and the floor is you, Antonio.
Thank you, Aurkene. Thank you for letting me speak now for the second time today. Yeah, 3 years ago when we started the new government in Spain, and I was posted as president of Segitur, we knew that eTourism and technology was not only the future, was the present. So we put it in our strategic national tourism plan in order to transform mature destinations into smart destinations, using technology, using innovation, etc. We started creating a committee to normalize the smart destinations. We had there 170 people from private and public companies helping us to define and to work on this new paradigm, which is the smart destinations. This is the definition that we agree. It's very long. It's an innovative tourist destination built on an infrastructure of state-of-the-art technology, guaranteeing the sustainable development of tourism areas, accessible to everyone, which facilitates the visitor's interaction with an integration into his or her surroundings, increases and improves residents' quality of life. It's quite long, but we believe that we need to have all these different aspects in the definition, because this is, for us, in a smart destination. You have the technology, you have the sustainability, you have the innovation, and you have the accessibility. And I have a small video to show you. In this video, we see how a smart destination works. Above all, the technology side. Here, this is a video mapping that we created for Fitur last week. And here you can see how the systems work together, and we can take data from the destination through the webs, through the mobile applications, through the hotels, through the companies. I mean, we have a huge smart grid where we can get all the information to create the best CRM we can ever have. Here you have all the infrastructure, which you cannot see, but it's there to support all the digital services and to be able to get the information through the Internet of Things and through the people interacting with systems. This is what we call, in Spain, this is the technology side of a smart destination. As you can see, this is the experience of the tourists. They just come into the smart destination office, they download the applications, and they interact with the destination. real time. We get information of what they are doing. They have free Wi-Fi in the beaches, in the cities, and all the data come to the center where we can manage everything. So we can get this intelligence system, so we can get information in real time of what's going on the territory. That's something that we are already doing and putting in practice in Spain. So with this, we know that we can get a deeper interaction of tourists with destinations. We can improve competitiveness of the destination and of the companies who are in the destination, and we can improve the quality of life of residents, which is something that really matters. Technology side, this is the infographic. I'm going to leave all these slides so you can get it. And we are already working on flow management because it's really important in our cities and in the beaches. We are working with the private companies, helping them to develop things so we can get information thanks to them, above all with telecom companies, with banks, and with companies who are working with restaurants and with hospitality sector. We have developed already 10 pilot projects in Spain. We are working on them. For instance, El Hierro, I think it's the first smart island in the world. We have installed this free Wi-Fi network and sensorized the island so we can monitorize, we can monitor everything in the island. In Playa de Palmas, they have already the largest free Wi-Fi area in Europe, and they have developed a customer mobile experience platform so they can get a lot of data from tourists. And they are developing a business intelligence platform so companies can get information through that. We have developing our own system in Badajoz, which is a small city inland in Spain. And of course, we are also innovating in applications because applications give us mobility, information, and geolocation, which is what the tourists need. And we have developed a platform, so we are developing applications, and one of the most important things is that we can monitor the tourists on the territory in this way. This is an application we have developed with Citurguni. Here you can see an application of the St. Jacques Road. So you can see how people in Britain has been downloaded the application. This is the World Sail Championship who took place in Santander this summer. And you can see how in France, in Paris, there were tons of downloadings because we make an event there to show the application and to sell the champion. And here you can see how people interact in the city with the application. It's a lot of information. Thanks to this, we have gathered in 1 month, no, in 2 months, almost 1 million data from tourists, and we can know them now their behavior in the territory. So it's an amazing tool, and this is just the beginning. Thank you.
All right, so with the given 2 keynotes, I would say, or the keynote and the short presentation now, I guess that also we have been during those last days, there was already a panel. I can see some of the members that participated in the Smart Destination panel. We have been sort of addressing issues related to big data. We know that big data may allow us or enable us on analytics. We can analyze a lot of more things. We can understand perhaps better. We will see what the panelists said. We can benchmark. Definitely the data can help us to devise or predict the future. And going back a little bit to these last 2 days, issues on e-governments and big open data, I would say, definitely this new, let's say, technology-driven in the beginning initiative, Smart Destinations, may allow us perhaps to provide a more collaborative, participatory, and mobile policies and destinations. But I would like to open the floor for each of you, please. I don't know the order, perhaps Professor Werthner, Hannes can start addressing the floor. But just pick up one of those topics. I will not give you a question because we could think about how do you see the smart destination, but perhaps you would like to address some of the topics related to that.
Thanks. It's the first time that I understood the concept of smart destination. Up to now, it was a buzzword, where we are full of buzzwords similar to big data. And we are using them, and I foresee that maybe in 2 or 3 years we will have the next buzzword popping up. But going from a conceptual level to the definition, I understand it as something which is connected. It's technology-based. It's connected experience between citizens, visitors, and suppliers, and the objective is somehow sustainability. Is this more or less what I have? What I have got. I have a critical question. Why is this called smart? Why is not intelligent? Okay, because both of them are not well defined. But normally smart, taking the discussion of Verfest and from the Erasmus University of Rotterdam, they had with the smart business ecosystem. It was just to be sufficient. It don't has to be optimal, it don't has to be maximus, it has to be somehow sufficient to satisfy a specific need. Is it also related to the smartness definition, or has it there some optimality criteria? Okay, or is it just to be sufficient on this level? What I appreciate very much is also the objective that you are transforming your organization in a data collecting and analytical organization. What we have heard that the future organization will be digital and it will be a software company, so all organization will be like that. There are some forecasts. And I understand that you are also on the way of transforming Segitour and Tour España into such digital organization, not only in relationship to the visitor, but also to the internal capability, to their capacity. I would have some other questions, but I pass on now, so for not saying too much now.
Yeah, we've concentrated on smart tourism in Born to Invest in the last couple of years, and like Hannes, in the beginning I was was quite skeptical about the term and whether if there is smart tourism, is there stupid tourism as well? And we really need to understand what's the distinction. I think the more we are expanding into this, I see smartness as the glue of bringing all the systems together and make them work together. A lot of focus so far has been about sustainability, but I think that is one of the aspects. It's all about customer experience, it's all about creating prosperity for the local citizens, it's all about creating meaningful interactions between different people. And I think what's happening is that so far, and that goes to what Tom was saying earlier, so far we've always looked into systems that are formal systems that the government is creating or destinations are creating or the suppliers are creating. I think for the first time ever, we're going to situations where everybody is participating in the discussion. And I think smartness will be about bringing every aspect of the discussion together and engaging this conversation towards creating more meaningful experience and experience that they can be used by a wide range of stakeholders. Some of you will know that a couple of years ago I was in Hawaii and I was following the Hawaii 5.0 kind of theme. And I was looking at the Hawaii official website about information about the Hawaii 5.0, and I couldn't find any of this stuff. And then when you search a little bit, you realize that there are a couple of enthusiastic people around in the area that they know everything about Hawaii 5.0, and they're contributing to this kind of situation. So the intelligent systems and the smartness of the destination will need to be about interconnecting all the systems that we have, that they are currently in silos. They do not speak to each other, and they do not have a collective objective together. I think that will be the most critical aspect, that the smart destination will connect the systems towards agreed objectives that will benefit all stakeholders. and they'll create the glue, and then they'll bring together all the different entities that they are interested in this, not only the official systems, but also the unofficial contributors. And that's, I think, the challenge of the future. And I'll leave that to that.
Yeah, I would say that this concept of smart destinations, that we see now for the perhaps first time that different concepts which are already out there are now growing together. It's the same way as Dimitrios already said, or they are merged. They are, on the one hand, they are context-aware systems, recommender systems. They are out there for quite a while, but up to now, they suffered from data. So there were not enough data about the user habits available for recommender systems, perhaps, to become really successful. Mobile services, as we saw in the video from Cantoni, mobile services, of course, play an important role. Ambitious computing, not only for providing intelligent services to the customer, but also for generating data by being used by the customer. So they play an important role, a central role in this concept of a smart destination, I think. Then there's social media, UGC, which is, of course, important, open data, which is available. And then there's, of course, the term business intelligence, data mining, so to analyze all this data. All those things which are out there at the moment, they are now merging together. Whether we want to call it a smart services, smart destination or not is a different question. In Sweden, we are working on a project on quite similar topics. We started with a destination management information system, so more focusing on the business intelligence side, but now are moving on into the direction of mobile services to gather more information, like an electronic customer card or location-based services. There we called it knowledge destination, which goes more into the direction of what Hannes said was intelligent destination. But I think the word is one thing, but I think we see here that those different concepts are now merged, they are growing together, and there's an extreme, I think there's a high potential in this evolution, because based on this extreme amount of data which is available, you can, of course, do completely new analysis. You can create knowledge which hasn't been there so far. So I think there's huge potential in this evolution, which we saw quite nicely in the video from Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say a couple of things. One is closely related with this smart destination stuff. And I think this embodies very well what has been presented in the keynote before, the fact that it's a public entity which is basically moving from e-government to information governance in a sense. So what you manage is information and data to collect them and make them available for the benefit of tourists and the local communities. I think I would love to add a couple of other things. One is the issue of capacity building. So it's very important to have nationwide organizations like those, but what we see, at least in Switzerland, many times the maturity of local providers is not at that same level. So to make sure that we use also digital technologies to train or to upskill people on the ground to make sure that in micro enterprises they can manage such complexities up to a certain point. And this reminds me, going to the e-learning stuff, reminds me to what, and so this is a more philosophical statement about the conference in itself. What has happened in the e-learning field. So at first it was education and digital technologies, and we started to say, yeah, digital technologies are helping a lot to improve the quality of education, to improve the efficiency of education. And so we were so excited, but after a while, and digital technologies have helped a lot, for instance, in studying how much does education cost, okay? But at a certain point, the question has arisen saying, but what is education? This is, nowadays we are asking us, what should we teach? Should we teach something or nothing? It's not just how should we teach. And I think for tourism, maybe we are going to that direction as well. In a sense, I think digital technologies are enabling a lot of smart experiences, as we have seen in many occurrences through this conference. But I think it might be the time also to ask us, are digital technologies also threatening some other experiences? For instance, think of the experience of getting lost. Everything which is smart is in a way, makes in a way impossible to get lost because you are traceable and you can trace yourself. And in our traveling experience, one of the most important experiences in human life is getting lost and finding yourself. Because it adds a lot also to our cognitive capacity of reconstructing a frame where there is also that place. But if all the places are on the map of our phone, maybe this is a problem. And the second problem is the definition of vacation itself. Vacation comes from Latin and means that there is a lack of something. But in fact, if we are bringing our phone, we are not vacating anymore because we are bringing our job and everything, our friends, our family, and everything else with us. So I think it might be the time that we start thinking how can, through technologies, make sure that we are curing or healing possible problems technology could bring within the touristic experience as well. But this is a more philosophical statement.
I don't know whether any of it would you like to follow up, or I would like also to open the floor so that we can follow with this discussion. Is anyone that would like to contribute with any thoughts, or would you like to share with us some of your ideas?
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation and also of the panelists' wise contributions. I think I would similarly see that such a system is a huge opportunity to provide a new base of knowledge and wisdom through the merging of all the existing systems. However, I'm probably less philosophical, as said by Lorenzo. I think the most critical thing in this is not just to create new parameters and analytics. How can this knowledge be meaningfully used by customers, locals, to increase the quality of life, by entrepreneurship to increase business activities, by a more wise use of scarce ecological, natural, social resources, and only then it is more than a sufficient, so it's, before the word smart infrastructure is just a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. And I think eventually we should work more with the concept of knowledge sharing, because very often knowledge is public product or a public item, and we know that knowledge is shareable and it increases in value if it is shared. But at a certain point it becomes a private concept for a certain number of stakeholders to use. And I don't see much theory or evidence or best practices to see this cycle where it really becomes sustainable and not just remains a public good. So can you give me some thoughts about that?
Yeah. In fact, we are learning. We're proving and we are learning. All the data that we are creating, or this big data thing that we are creating, and the open data, because it's needed, because we have to share the knowledge, we have to share the data. And basically it's now based on a B2B basis. It's not for the end consumers, it's for tourists. Tourists can get the information through the application, through the webs. But the data is more, we are thinking more about how businesses, how companies can use it to develop new products, new services for tourists. So, as far as we can get now, the companies are really open to share their knowledge, to share their data, if they can get more data to develop more things. And open data doesn't mean free data. That's something I always say. because if we have a company like Global Blue, which deals with the taxpayers, how do you say, the VAT devolution at the airports, they have a lot of information about the shopping by tourists. So now they are thinking about open all the data, which has a huge amount of information for the first time, because now they think that maybe it's a new business model for them. Now they have a new thing to sell. And they are going to do it because they want to see if it works, and at the same time they can help the companies to sell better, so they can get more amount of business. So we are all related, and I think the main key is the participation of everyone. All the stakeholders are in the development of the Smart Destinations project from the beginning. Social, we say the government, the civil society, the companies, we are all in that. So it's something that's not only from the government, but it's something that we are all creating at the same time. So it's a different point of view.
A final comment or question for the participation of the stakeholders based on the definition of the smart destination. Do you see it is crucial to have a working definition for sustainability, or is sustainability just more an umbrella term among or above all these meritorious aspects like entrepreneurship, enhanced customer experience, and so forth?
Fact, when we talk about sustainability, we talk about environment, social, cultural, and economic sustainability. So if you're thinking that it's so wide, it has to be there. We cannot be not sustainable at all. So we have to be sustainable if we want to grow, if we want to keep our business on for the next century. So that's why we think, and it's the same for accessibility. It's something that we have to have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess that perhaps someone in the panel wanted to address some of the issues that we are discussing here. I thought that you were to participate.
Is it sustainability or growth?
Sorry?
Is it sustainability or growth what you are underlining?
It's both, I think.
There might be
sustainable growth.
Okay.
Well, I guess that it's an issue for everybody. I was chatting about this with James Murphy this morning, and he was quite concerned about the digital divide. Will this new reality really enable all the different stakeholders and citizens and groups or not? Or are we going to even open and create a larger digital divide? And when we are looking for sustainable social and economic development models, are we facing new challenges? Or maybe someone else in the panel or from the...
I think it's a very complicated question to talk about it without having evidence, because we should have some evidence, and we are just throwing thoughts there. I think it has both sides. It has the possibility to really close the gap, because due to these ICT possibilities where you can have direct access to data, where you can really have access to a marketplace, where you can do different things. No? On the other side, what we observe in Europe at the moment is due to this financial crisis, that you have an increasing difference between North and South, both in capabilities, economic growth, as well as impact of research or investment to research. So there is both sides, where you have an increasing gap, and on the same side you have the, let's say, the possibility that this gap could be closed. No? So that you have access to the internet with your mobile phones, or you could have the satellites. You don't have to build your digital infrastructure. You could have it rather easily connected. So, but these are two sides which are hard to, without any statistical data, what's really happening at the moment. No?
I think, in a way, a lot of people are looking into this as something totally new. In fact, it isn't. We had a lot of this data, we had a lot of these systems, we had a lot of these services, but they're operating on silos. They were operating on their own. I think what is new is It's a paradigm shift in the way that we're thinking. And the second thing is the interoperability of all the systems, where we can connect all the systems to enable them to collaborate.
I think it's possible. It could be done. But we did a network analysis at our institute, at the working group of the Austrian tourism market based on websites. And you have the nodes, the website has the nodes, and then you have the links where how they are connected. Everything is well connected. But two players were missing in this cooperative network. And exactly those players who are somehow dominating the market, which is HIS and booking. They are not connected to the others, so they are not cooperating. At the same time, they have most of the turnover based on booking. So you have the concept of cooperation, which is a smart destination for me, is a cooperative approach. On the other side, you have players, some free riders there. They are utilizing this for their benefit. And I think destinations have to also give an answer to this situation, because otherwise you will build up a very good infrastructure with a lot of data, but in the essential step, where it is around money, when you have to pay, this is done by some very few OTAs. Yeah. And this is a crucial question for destination. I think they have to answer, and not just to be connected one with each other.
From the tourism point of view, some of the destinations are getting a little bit unhappy and a little bit cautious about the dominance of Expedia, Booking.com, and the bigger guys. So it may be that this creates an alternative ecosystem which may approach consumers from different ways and save commissions and save leakages of the economy. Because effectively, if you are operating with Expedia, 25% of the income is going away immediately.
But I don't want to dominate this discussion, because there are some very, very strong arguments against this.
Yeah, that's a really important issue, I think. But I would
I'd just like to follow up on the issue of digital divide. There is statistics for e-government, which points at oversupply and under-demand. In the European Union right now, 100% of EU member states deliver common public services online, 100%. So there is a complete coverage. In terms of the demand, the usage, it's less than 50% of the population. So it's actually a digital divide is a real issue, as particularly at the phase when most governments are moving to a digital by default policy, and actually closing some of the non-digital channels. So this is a policy and strategic issue for moving forward with ICT channels.
From our experience in Spain, we have developed a project in Canary Island, which deals with shopping tourism, and we have got 6,000 companies in less than 6 months to join this project, and they had to digitalize their companies, small micro companies, and they are now in the digital world thanks to this project. And I think it's something who has to be with the communication of the project. We have counted them since the very first moment, and now when we explain them that if they want to sell things to the tourists that are visiting the city, they have to be there. And 6,000 companies are already in the project, digitalizing all their product services and to try to sell it to the tourists. So it's, I think we have to work with people, hand by hand, if we want them to come to the digital world, digital economy.
Someone from the floor? Yes, please.
Hello. Oops, sorry. Thanks to all the speakers for your talks and the organizers for the conference, which is wonderful. My name is Daniel. I work for a School of Church Communications at Vatican University, so I am probably the less expert in the issue. But I want to link to the philosophical thought that Lorenzo Cantoni brought up, because I think we have the danger sometimes of promoting tourism or integration of ICT and tourism with a too technological-driven approach, And I think it may be interesting in trying to give sense to the experience, to the user experience through the ICT. In this sense, I participated in the whole conference, but especially in the religion tourism panel that was yesterday. That for me was very interesting because religion is an example of that. Certainly there are others, and I think I would like to encourage organizers to keep this idea of thematic areas or sessions, because you can apply that not only to religion. Certainly you can use culture, you can use art, you can use music, which are topics very much related to tourism, and provide and give sense to the experience of the user through ICT. So I think it's interesting this idea of rethinking tourism, not just as a process, a technological process, but also giving sense and helping people grow and improve, and not even just looking for user satisfaction, but also for our technology, but especially this idea of providing sense. So just this thought, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes, anyone would like to follow up on? No? I just wonder, how could we, from this community, we had already yesterday a manifesto. We are trying to sort of figure it out what are the fundamental questions we should be sort of being concerned of, how to address those fundamental questions. Definitely a new paradigm. We don't know whether we have enough evidences or not to address further many of the issues that are already showing up, such as just a simple thing. Do we have enough engagement models? Do we need new engagement models in order to better coordinate, or, we are talking so much about public-private participation, destination industry, academic community. Are we enabled to sort of enhance and boost this type of new models? But how can, I wonder, this community address or help moving forward our agenda? So I know it is also a very, very difficult question for the panel, but I would like to maybe collect some of your thoughts on that. And also all of you, we are just finishing this conference, those 3-4 days of really active work, and I think we have been really participating and contributing a lot in different sessions, thinking, listening. So are we ready? How do we enable ourselves, enhance our approaches, our agenda, in order to move forward within the new paradigm?
It's always me to start. I didn't listen to your question, so, but I can answer it even. I understood that you have somehow how to move forward, or what are issues, pressing issues from here, which is something slightly different, what are fundamental questions of tourism and life. I would not mix them all up. I think this would become a too big soup which we could not swim through. I would somehow like to go back what also Dan said yesterday. When we started with ENTER, we had a vision how the future would look like, and this was somehow where we have explicitly expressed this as this connected world, more democratic relationships, open market situations, which really did not become true. It somehow developed differently, so our visions were somehow wrong. I think what we would be good for the maybe next ENTER, we could do a vision workshop. We could do something sitting together, a half day or something like this, well prepared, because it's a hard thing to design visions, no, or to do scenarios, but something where we could sit together. We are also well prepared. We have some hypotheses, we have some statements, some explicit, because it should be some basis to discuss about it. And maybe there are different futures, obviously. There are different worlds and there are different futures, and this we could somehow bring to the point, okay? And then on the other side, we could also look, what is the role of technology in this? Is it an enabler, facilitator? Is it a barrier already in something for real experience, as well Lorenzo has pointed out? And I think this would be an approach we could do, where we could also deliver some value, not only to the community, but also to the industry. Because I think at the moment, nobody does this, okay? And this would be something we could deliver. And this I would relate with this research manifesto. I think the issues we have identified and the framework we have there is good, where we could move forward. So these are two suggestions. The third one is really putting a challenge of IFID on the table. We have heard many, there were many there was especially one interesting discussion, presentation from Tourmis Vienna, which is a similar approach to what you do in Spain, with a lot of data. And they could provide data and they could somehow raise a challenge. What to do with this data? What can you find in the data? Do we need some hypothesis-driven research, which I still believe is the major approach? Or is it something like Dan says, is it an open, somehow open learning approach in this data analysis? This is three things I would do.
I think an important point is, which we discussed in the JIT manifesto already, is the percentage of IT we are talking about, what we are doing with IT. In the last years, I think the IT part has decreased a little bit. So there are less IT papers, where really new IT solutions are created. We are more and more analyzing IT solutions which have been produced by somebody else. This is fine, as far as our research has at the end an impact on those IT solutions. But if you look, for example, at Facebook or TripAdvisor, it's of course hard to say whether TripAdvisor will be influenced by our research we are doing. Therefore, we have to be careful that it's not at the end a closed shop. We are researching software solutions which we haven't created and which we cannot change at all because the companies, we have no impact on those companies. So I think this is, from my perspective at least, an important point, that we try perhaps to increase this part of research where we in joint, in interdisciplinary teams, we really create prototypes, create software, and we then analyze how this software works in order to really create something new and to influence the development of IT solutions. That would, from my perspective, be an important aspect for the future of ENTER and IFID.
So basically not only predicting, but also devising and creating the future.
Yeah.
Sorry, what you mean. Yes, please.
One question that's intriguing me all the time is that we are having some kind of holistic discussion on what's improvement for the whole world. Well, if I'm looking at this picture, there's so many different stakeholders. Who's improvement? Who's benefiting? Who's losing in the game? And I hardly see this question in any of the presentations. You're talking about nice new development, nice new applications. For whom? In whose interests? Because they will be in the interest of some parties, but they always be a disbenefit for others. And I think we started studying organizations like in a holistic way. Now we know that there are stakeholders and that it's very hard to define a general optimum. So all the time I say, so what kind of optimum are we looking for anyhow? And this might be a starting point in a discussion. Which are the important players? And do we represent all of them? Do we want to represent all of them? In whose interest are we doing our work? Might be a starting point for your session.
I really like that idea, John, and it was going back to what we were saying early on about smartness for the optimal benefit of stakeholders. And, you know, and unless the customers have got fun, they come to our destinations, they feel fulfilled, they've got a fantastic experience, they can go around, they can find what they want, they can go home happy, we are not there. They're not going to come back to Spain. They're not going to come back to Switzerland. It's all about engaging with all different stakeholders and going back to the new concepts of co-creation that's coming from service dominant logic and looking to how organizations do not necessarily produce things that they've pre-designed, but they co-design on the flight in real time with the customers as they're coming along. So situations where you don't have a menu, but the customer comes in and say, I would like to eat this, can we please do this? And I think when you look into the future, I think I see real-time services emerging. And I see agility coming where you are going to bring together 2 or 3 different things. You find the supplier, you find the destination, you find the consumer with these particular needs at that particular moment, and you find context. And that blend will actually create the co-creation at that particular moment to create the experience.
Okay, but it has to be in a situation with dynamic power relationships.
Absolutely.
Changing all the time. That's the problem.
Okay. Thank you. That was a quite interesting question. Please.
And that is the first time that we're in that situation. No. So far, it's been, you know, I build hotels, you come, you stay, you go home, you give me this money, end of story. Now it's it's dynamic, it's happening all the time, and it's happening live. And if you are happy, you kind of engaging in a happy conversation, or if you're unhappy, you engage in an unhappy conversation, all live. So.
Yes, I think this conversation is very productive and showing that also this very concept of smart destinations, be it the best way of naming it or not, but it's pushing the community towards a better integration and a better understanding of an holistic situation instead of just working in silos, as Dimitrios was suggesting. I would also second the idea of Wolfram to invite and include more people from the IT with the IT background. That's for sure. It's very important, otherwise we are, in a sense, in danger of just running behind the industry. And so next year we might really think of running a visionary workshop. I was involved in an experience like that for the federal government here in Switzerland, think of ahead 25 years, how the world might be in 25 years, and that was really an interesting exercise. And I think this discussion is also very interesting, showing, someone has said that computers are interesting but at the same time boring because they have all the answers, but they are not able to have any single question, while we have a lot of questions. So I think there is still space for us to think about eTourism.
I'm hoping so too. Okay, well, is there any other contribution? Someone would like to take the floor? No? Someone else in the panel? No? So if you let me, I will close here this panel discussion. I think has been quite interesting and enlightening. Also looking forward to the following ENTER conference. I took a very close note about the given contributions and suggestions. I think still also for all of you, if you have any further idea or related to what we have been discussing here, you can write to us, please, to me or to Lorenzo, and send us your contributions and thoughts. I'm positive that we will be able to gather them and once else build a new conference all together, because I said in the beginning of this conference that it's not a work of one, it's not a work of a great chairs and co-chairs of all the tracks. Is a work of every single delegate that can come, contribute, participate, engage, and collaboratively we can sort of move forward in this community. So thank you very much to everybody for still keeping here in this, with this panel discussion. I will close it, and then we will move forward to the closing ceremony. Thank you.